Welcome to class, students. As you can see, I have my plastic water bottles. They've changed a bit, but they're still there. We're improvising today. What I wanted to know was, is anyone thirsty today? Do I have any takers? I know it's hot outside and we're trying to see. Are you thirsty? I see many of you are. Well, I've got something special for you. Many times, we're going to be learning about watershed. And there's a lot of different things that are involved with that. There's different vocabularies you're going to learn about pollution and runoff water, watersheds. What are these words and what do they mean? Well, I'm going to start with an example. I would have a volunteer come up, but in this case, we won't. They would sprinkle some mulch. And we know what mulch is for, right? Mulch is going to be representative of our soil, grass, those types of things. Rock, the same thing. Now, I had takers on one that were nice and thirsty. So now, we're going to see how it works, how a watershed works. Whatever goes into our drinking water starts here. This is our precipitation. And our precipitation comes down, and it can come easy or it can come fast. And you see what's happening. It's all going down. No, turn out. It's all running and it's going to the bottom. That's what we're talking about when we're dealing with watersheds and what happens to them. All this goes into your drinking water, into our water supplies. Now, it's my guess that nobody's thirsty and wants to drink this. Nobody wants to drink this. It's nasty. That's why it's always important to be sure that we don't pollute our environment. We respect our resources. Natural resources are what we have that have been provided on the earth for us to use as we need, but they do run out. We're going to learn about recycling, reusing, and overall, we don't want to drink this. So let me get to your vocabularies. You go ahead and get your notebooks out. We're going to use your science notebooks, and I'm going to give you some vocabularies. Then I'm going to pass around a cut and sort. The cut and sort is got all the vocabularies that we need. Some from the past and some for your key terms that you will need this go round. And they're important, we know. So we're going to work on these in groups. You get to share with a friend, practice, and that's what we'll do. Now, you're just, for your cut and sorts, I'm going to give everyone bags. You're just simply going to cut them. And y'all have done this before, so you certainly know how. We're going to start with some of the key ones, okay? Typically, I would be modeling this in my lesson on the on the smart board, but I don't have it, so we're just kind of cutting and sorting here for this. Okay, now, technically, this would be my smart board. And in my smart board, I would say, ta-da, watershed map. And I would do it in colors and make it look pretty and smile for the children. In this case, we did it in pencil and some markers. Now, what's important about this, kids, is the different things that we're covering. A watershed is essentially where we have water that is collecting. It's a region or an area that's bound peripherally by divide and draining. Essentially, if you look, we have mountains, okay? We have our clouds up here, and we have precipitation. What happens? We have the precipitation. It's all got to run down somewhere, just like we were doing with the other. Just like the soil could be up here. That could be someone's bottles or someone's trash. They're going to run down. And as it runs down, it's got to have somewhere to go. That's what we call a watershed. Now, we refer to the surface or the runoff, and it's just going to empty, essentially. Kind of like we know that rivers flow to the ocean and the creeks flow to them, or the lakes and that type of thing. All right? So it's a continuous process, and we have to respect these things. Now, watersheds is something that is where we get a lot of drinking. We have 3 of them in Virginia. It's the Chesapeake Bay. Well, I take that back. We have 3 in Virginia. Not in Virginia. Virginia is going to be the Chesapeake Bay. And then we have the Gulf of Mexico, and we have the North Carolina one. And we'll maybe be able to research those a little more moving forward, okay? Hopefully we'll get to read a little on them. Now, if you recall from in the past, we did aquatic things. And when we talk about aquatic, what are we talking about? We're simply talking about water. It has to do with water. So we have aquatic resources, that type of. Okay. Also, for your vocabularies, I want to make sure you understand runoff. Surface water is what is right below the ground. It's not far at all. It's in your cut and sort. Let me hand out my cut and sorts so that everybody can go over them. Okay. So now, if you look with me, we're showing our surface water as natural water that has not been penetrated into the ground, or it's right there. It's your drainage water. Again, here we go. What happened with our soil? Same thing. The soil and the rocks, they all trickle down. So, that's what we're talking about. Runoff is the same thing. Groundwater is located right there below the ground. Okay? Sediment is often something that we refer to that goes to the bottom. So if you recall when we were talking about this, and if you looked at our water, technically I would let volunteers come up and look at this. If you look, you can see how things are beginning to sit at the bottom of that. Will you go ahead? You can see how that's what we call sediment when it starts to form on the bottom. And that's important to know. Other big things are conserving. We have to learn to limit our use and overuse of water, resources. Natural resources are given to us. We also have recycling and reusing things, which are what we do together. That's part of our community. It's our responsibility as citizens. Pollution is anything harmful to our environment. Anything at all. In this case, it's the water. If we throw litter or medicines out, if we throw batteries or trash, all of that has a chance of coming down that and seeping into our water resources. And the importance of us with the drinking water, it's critical. We don't want to have bad water. That's another thing that's really important, and we'll do more of that going forward, is to learn about the water, how it's contaminated, and how following a lot of the natural disasters, we've recently had a hurricane, not for us, but close, and a lot of people are affected. Okay, so we're going to go through that. I think that is most of that. And so what we're going to do is, I gave you the vocabulary words. We're going to provide, you've got that. I showed you how to cut and sort. So again, you're gonna cut and sort. And do I have that? So they can technically see. I have a cut and sort. And then we have some reading that we're gonna do. We're gonna start to do, I have a couple of selected passages that we're gonna read on SOL Pass. And they are Virginia Watersheds. It's a tongue twister, even for adults. And then we have Virginia Water Resources. Both of those are gonna discuss in better more detail, what I've explained to you today, okay? So I do want y'all to make sure that in your notebooks you draw and label the watershed that I did. You don't have to say the watershed that I did, and it's on the smart board up here for you to refer to. And then what we're gonna do is after your reading, I forgot. Stay there. One moment, students. Miss Violet made a mistake. We're going to improvise for this and have 2 different colored sticky notes, one yellow and one green. And these would be sticky notes. What we're going to do is after your reading, I want you to do 2 things. I want you to take your green and say, hey, what did I learn about this? What is something that I learned that I did not know before? On the yellow one, I want you to write one question that the reading you read helps encourage you and say, hey, what more do I want to know? What are you curious about? So we have curiosity and what you know. No, curiosity. We're going to have 2 places on the green side and the yellow side on the wall beside the door. Okay? So if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start to move into groups. Okay?